Good afternoon. It is such a beautiful sunshiny day here in the sunshine state of Florida, but it is a little chilly despite the sun shining down upon me. So I really have been wanting to share something that I've been struggling with personally regarding food, regarding sugar and the toxicity and the addiction that it can create. It does create. I have been working on cleansing my body because I've been feeling really crappy the past few days. Let me know if you can hear me clearly. It is windy here too. I have a little buddy with me here today. I have Buddy over here and I have this buddy today. This is Ganesha. Now Ganesha is the remover of obstacles. And sometimes we need a little help, right? And sometimes we're our own biggest obstacle. So my personal experience this past week has been that many of you know that Tommy has left, and so I'm readjusting and trying to find myself back into a flow, trying to get life back into something. When you have someone in your life, and ladies and gentlemen in relationships out there, when your partner leaves, what does it feel like? Does it totally rock your world? Do you feel like, oh my gosh, my world, you're excited for them, you're excited they're leaving, they're going to give you some space. Sometimes that's what we need. But then when you get the space, you almost don't know what to do with it because you haven't had it. So there's a lot of different dynamics that come up, a lot of emotions, a lot of thought processes that come up, and it's a great opportunity because that's one thing I've found is I've been able to sit with, oh my gosh, there's an old pattern, go figure. How's that serving me? How can I work through and utilize this to support my growth and evolution, my progress in life? So great example. We reach for comfort food, right? So what is your comfort food? I want to know in the comments. If you have comfort foods, do you have food addictions? Let me know in the comments, and don't be afraid and don't be shy. I'm not here to shame anyone because I'm going to share mine with you. So it's funny too because in the past year, my habits, my food, my patterns have changed significantly. Good morning, Deborah. Good morning, Darcy. And hi, Trish. So here's the irony. I'm the kind of person that I can go from extreme to extreme. I can bring myself back into discipline and I can be very devoted and dedicated to myself. But sometimes I can fall off the wagon just as easily. And in the past, my mind would say, I'm fine. But I can sit with myself and own my stuff enough to say, wow, I really recognized recently what I'd been going through. And I was sitting in my practice this morning. I was even sitting there going, wow, I was going into a form of depression. I was deep rest, by the way. Depression is deep rest. It's an opportunity to go within and to recognize whatever's coming up. And when we go to reach for comfort foods, do you know there's no difference between an addict and their drugs than us and our comfort foods, because food is our biggest addiction. And I can tell you right here, right now, if you can look better into your past, like you can look deeply and be good with it and recognize, wow, when I was younger, when you crave something, have you ever noticed that? You're like, I really want my grandma's sweet apple pie, or I really want donuts, cupcakes, cookies. If we can trace it back to that time when we were younger, see, comfort foods are no different than a drug because, like cocaine, like whatever addictive drugs there are out there, I'm using cocaine as an example because sugar and cocaine are very closely correlated. They've done plenty of studies, you can do your research, that it is even more addictive than cocaine, sugar that is. And so when we reach for comfort foods, if you can go deep within your past and see, this is the trauma that was arising when I reached for that first time food to comfort and soothe me, right? That's what we do, that's what we did. That when we took upon that food, it satiated. It soothed us in the moment. It didn't get rid of the trauma, it didn't fix the problem, it didn't make us feel better about the situation. But in that moment, it took our attention off of it and placed it on something sweeter, right? So the sourness of my situation was sweetened by the food and the comfort. So again, I can repeat that it's very much similar to a drug addiction where you're always following, looking for that next high, just like the first time. But from my understanding, you'll never reach it because it only soothed in the moment when you needed the soothing. It's not going to continually repeat and show up to support you in every moment that you have a sour moment to sweeten it and make it feel better. So I don't know if any of you out there can relate to this, and I hope that this is serving someone out there. This is why I've really felt compelled. So I'd noticed in the past, now it's been a week and a half, 10 days, 11 days since Tommy left. And I told him, I said, honey, I'm craving everything that you would be eating if you were here. It's like I picked up on his food cravings. And so it's ironic for me because I have a lot of discipline, at least I think I do. And discipline is that I can say no because I'm not trying to make other people feel comfortable. A lot of times that's what we think we're doing. We'll think, oh, well, I'll have this food because I have to eat the same thing everybody else is eating because it'll make them uncomfortable if I'm eating something different. You know what? Hogwash. That's about us. That's enabling our behaviors, and it is not serving us. And I know that. And so I've learned through my discipline to know what works in my body, what doesn't work, to ask questions when necessary. And I have forgotten over this past year especially, and had some lessons that popped up and some reminders. Oh, that's why I have to remind myself to pay attention, to ask questions, to not assume. And, you know, it's not that I'm not trusting, because truly I think sometimes I can be more trusting. But here I am craving these foods that I normally could easily say, no, you know what, I don't need that. I can't even seem to keep myself clean on my raw vegan lifestyle anymore. And that's okay. I'm good with that. That's something I've had to go with. Part of it is I did accommodate for having another person in my house who wanted to eat more cooked foods. And the more the cooked foods, the more I craved them, and the more I was eating them, and the less I was eating the way I used to, and the less I was preparing the foods that, if you've been watching us for over a year now, you would understand that that's the way I like to eat because I feel the best on it. But you know why we do that sometimes, and I'm using myself as an example. I'm the litmus test. If you want to learn from an example, come look at me. I go through these phases where I have to go down to come back up. I have to remind myself through personal experience, here is what happens when you fall off your wagon. Here is what works and here's what didn't work. It's a beautiful way of honoring yourself, because one bad choice is not going to change your life to the point where you can no longer bounce back. What it is it's going to remind yourself how much you're worth it, how beautiful you are. It's an opportunity for self-love to come back into practice. So a little over a week ago, and y'all saw me sitting out here last Friday, I was sharing with you some beautiful cupcakes and donuts from Hell Life, and they were delicious. So you know what I did on Thursday this past week? And I wasn't really craving them, but something in me was triggered. I can't explain it, but I know, because I know myself. I was going, whoa, what is up with the cupcakes? I got to go over there and I got to get some. So you know, I did. I went over to the bakery shop. I ordered myself some cupcakes. I also got some donuts. I even got a brownie, and I got this other thing called the red velvet cake. Then I proceeded to go to Starbucks and get a coffee, a cappuccino with coconut milk And I said, what the heck? Go for a couple squirts of the pumpkin spice liquid syrup stuff. OMG, all. It was probably the biggest mistake I made. And I don't even know if it was the coffee with the syrup or just all of it together. It doesn't even matter. But later in the evening, like before I went to bed, my stomach started to swell. I had stomach cramps and pains like I haven't had in ages. I can't even tell you. Maybe I've had them, but I don't remember them ever being like this. I literally tossed and turned. I couldn't get comfortable in the bed. I felt miserable. I had hot sweats, cold, hot, all the things that we go through with sugar, with drugs, with alcohol. It felt like a hangover. And what do you think alcohol does? It's a fermentation in the body. It's a sugar. And so with this toxic experience, and literally did not sleep all night long, and then I ended up spending the day in bed basically, drinking water, trying to hydrate, trying to feel better. Buddy was so good. He stayed by my side. And then come Saturday, my dad came over in the afternoon. And I still felt, like it was really painful. My whole entire right side, tender to touch, tender to move, hurt to lift my right leg because it was in, the gut, the abdominal, it was up in here, right? Up under the diaphragm. It was so unbearably painful. It hurt to turn in the bed. Every time I turned in the bed, it was like pain was more excruciating. There was no comfortable spot. And then when I did get in a comfortable spot, it seemed like, don't move. Oh, no. I can't handle more. And I want to know, have any of you ever experienced this? Have you witnessed this in your own body? Do you have things like fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, inflammation, nerve pain, any dis-ease in your physical body? Because here's where I'm coming from now. I posted earlier in the group about how I have Raynaud's syndrome, or so I was diagnosed several years ago. And what is that? All of it. It's autoimmune dis-ease. It means your immune system has been compromised. It means something has happened that your body can't optimally bounce back from because something is weakening it. The white blood cells in your body have increased because it's fighting off some foreign invader that doesn't belong. The body is trying to heal while also you're most likely putting more of it in. And we could be doing any number of things, but sometimes we don't take the time to pay attention, to make time to become more in tune with our physical bodies. Our moods are a great example. The mood is what drives all of it, right? Right? Trish, totally. Nerve and inflammation. I want to go back to the sugar, because this is my experience I'm sharing here with all of you. My physical body, not just the pains in my stomach, are so unbearably tight, stiff, inflamed. I'm trying to work out kinks that weren't there a few days ago. My body was feeling phenomenal. I was finally starting to feel like, oh, here we go. Buddy's getting his walks in. I'm feeling good. We're walking, and we're moving, we're shaking. I'm getting ready to do some other new things with y'all. And the next thing I know, I've got stiffness, my neck, My Raynaud's creeped up significantly, right? I've been freezing. Normally, when I'm stronger with my immune system, it doesn't pop up as frequently, right? So what does sugar do? You can do a whole lot of research out there and you can find out the effects of sugar on your body. I can tell you right now, for those of you, especially the nerve damage, the nerve pain, and I have had nerve pain as a result of pinched nerves in my neck. What it means is the sugar, it weakens, it thins the myelin sheath over the brain. It weakens the nerve casing. The protective nerve sheath that goes outside of the nerve becomes weaker. It deteriorates. The sugar it creates a uric acid which eats away at the synovial fluids in the joints. It creates all of this inflammation as a result of tearing down the walls that protect. Yeah. So, Kathy, you're asking what the syndrome is called. It's called Raynaud's. It's named after a French man named Raynaud. And it's Raynaud's syndrome. And basically what happens is when you get really cold, it feels like it's literally in your bones, that when someone says, I don't understand, I touch you and you feel warm. But you feel sometimes it into the core of your physical bones. That, yeah, you might even warm up to touch, but to feel it like it's even deeper, right? Yeah. And so, exactly, Darcy. So we're talking about processed sugar. I'm not talking about fruits and vegetables and things like that. I have natural sugars. I'm talking about any form of processed sugar. And I don't care if someone says, oh, well, it's raw cane sugar, or it's, it's still sugar and it's been processed. And it's crazy how addictive it is. And you don't realize it until you're reaching and consciously paying attention to the thoughts behind, the things, the memories that are popping up, the things you're trying to suppress, and when you're going to reach for that food. If you can correlate in the moment when you go to eat, is this truly what I need for my body, or am I craving? Which, by the way, I really want to stress, a craving is not always a healthy craving. A craving, like I just said, could be because some old memory's been triggered, and you're looking to soothe it, to comfort yourself. And food is the first thing we're going to reach for because we know, well, it's more predictable, right? And so if you buy any form of processed food, you got to read the ingredients, find out what they've got in them. Stay away from things like, these really crazy sugars. You don't even know what they're called now. Sucralose, Truvia, if it's in a liquid form, and then it's been even who knows what, cane syrup, cane sugar, white sugar, powder sugar. Stay away from it if you can, because all it's going to do is bring you down that unhealthy feeling. But I'm just saying from my personal experience, and I really want to stress that, because you know what? You're going to have to learn through your personal experience to truly evaluate and value yourself. Yes, aspartame, I think they changed the name now, didn't they? You deserve better. You deserve to feel good. You shouldn't have to struggle. You should not have to feel pain. But it's a choice, and it's a choice we make every single day of what we put in our mouth, right? And Carl, you're asking about Manuka honey. Now, I'm still a little on the fence about honeys, about coconut sugar. I mean, they're still kind of processed, and there's still a process even with honey. I can't say for certain, but if you do struggle with a lot of pain, it may be helpful to just cut all of it out until you start to notice a difference, and then maybe reintroduce it to your diet. Just like molasses is supposed to be really healthful and beneficial for minerals. My suggestion, and what I want to try myself, is I want to look at what it is I can eliminate, and then see how I feel and re-enter it into my system if it's something I feel I need. Now, I was really good up until, and I also stay away personally. Agave is to me just as bad as sugar. In fact, I think it really contributes to obesity and other issues as well. I was really good about not being big on sweets. I mean, sweets for me were almonds and dates. Almond butter and dates, right? Because there's a sweetness to the almond butter, and the dates, it's this really yummy marriage of foods that exist in nature. But yeah, so Tommy came into my life, and it's not his fault. So please don't think I'm outing him for anything, because I'm totally not. In fact, he had his food cravings, and I just bought into and went with a lot of it. And then I started to realize over the past year, this past couple months especially, that wow, I need to clean up again. I need to clean myself up. And really, this was coming before this happened. So on Thursday, when I had that horrible experience with the stomach aches, wow, I'm like, really? And I'd been thinking, I need to do a cleanse. I need to do a fast. You know, it's funny though. When you consciously know you need to do something, sometimes it's almost like it just goes, pow, here you are, it's in your face. And so let me share what happened. I started feeling better yesterday. My dad comes over. I placed the box of the cupcakes and donuts in front of him and said, here you go, Dad. I don't think I'm going to eat these. And he eats them and goes, oh, these are too sweet. Now, maybe that was really what the problem was for me. Maybe they weren't as sweet as the first time I had them. I don't know. But I can tell you they were really good the first time. The week, what was it? I think it was the 18th that I went over there, 17th or 18th. They were really good. And they weren't too overpowering, and I didn't eat as much. And I didn't eat as much this past Thursday, but I can be honest and say they seemed a lot sweeter this time. And they didn't taste as good. Like, have you ever noticed that? Again, just like a drug, just like your first time eating something that became a comfort food, you're always chasing the high for that first initial OMG, that tasted so amazing, right? I didn't get it the second time. So I had to sit with it the other day in my meditation, and I'm going, it really wasn't that good. So what the heck was it? And it came up. Remember that addicts are always chasing that first time high, and that's when it clicked. I'm like, sugar, and I know better. I know better because I treat myself better. But sometimes falling off the wagon isn't such a bad thing, because then you have the opportunity to get right back on and do better. Because when you know better, you do better. So the sugar was a huge culprit. There's no doubt in my mind. It took me a day or so. I finally went to the bathroom yesterday. I hadn't gone to the bathroom. Not a healthy thing, by the way, because it was all stopped up, basically. And I was getting severe pains. And I decided not to eat anything further because I saw how horrible I was already feeling. And it caused me to be even more depressed because I was miserable and I couldn't do anything. And I was like, oh, I don't want to live. This feels horrible. And that's kind of what happens, right? So any of you out there who've suffered with any type of food addiction, any type of sugar addiction, sweets, what have you, when you feel miserable, it affects your mood because of the food. The mood, and here's the cycle, and here's the biggest dilemma. And this is what I've experienced and witnessed. When my mood, which is triggered by a memory, which is triggered by an emotion, triggers an emotion, then all of a sudden it influences what I want to reach for. My mood affects the food, and the food affects my mood. And if you keep bouncing back and forth between the two, reaching for that because, OMG, this has got to be satiated and I don't feel good, I'm in a bad mood, I'm missing, I'm wanting, I got to get my hands on something. Because that's a control thing, by the way. You know, you can control what you put in your mouth. You can't control what your thoughts are bringing up sometimes, you think. When you can confront them. And it's an opportunity to sit with it and go, okay, so what is this really trying to tell me about myself? Be kind on your mind and just remember this stuff happens, and it's really important to just be with it and go, okay. And it's sometimes you're going to have those moments, and I've done it. Dang, I really, really want one of those mint Hail Mary chocolate tarts right now. By the way, I got a couple of those in the freezer right now, and I'm not touching them. And I'm like, man, oh, but that would taste so good because the mint and the chocolate, they make my bowels move smooth. Yeah, okay, for those of you out there who reach for the coffee, who reach for the sweets or the cupcake, whatever it is your morning breakfast is, sometimes it's really the stimulation from it and not the healthiness of it that's causing the movement. But again, you got to sit with that. You got to be good with it and recognize it. So if you reach for the Hail Mary tart, I'm not talking about every single moment you get the craving. Once in a while is one thing, but when you start to see your own pattern, you start to notice your own addiction. When you see your addiction, you can actually clear it by working on it. You can be more discerning and go, oh, wait a minute here. This moment is not about the Hail Mary craving, but about this childhood trauma. And what's coming up in my life right now is mimicking it. It's like the mirror. It's appearing for you to go, hey, we need to be worked on. We need to be confronted. We need to be healed so we can let it go and let it flow. Because once we let that go, our life will unfold and flow in a more easeful way, enriched, more lively. We can eat healthier. Because then when you eat healthier, you start to notice how you feel healthier. And when you feel healthier, you want more of that, right? But the moment you go down that spiral is the opportunity not to get upset with yourself, not to be hard on yourself, but to recognize the toxicity that it's building up, not just emotionally, not just physically, but overall, how it affects your life. Because if you're not healthy, you're not happy, you don't feel holy, you don't feel whole, right? So this really is a mind-body-soul connection in all aspects. It really boils down to being aware and present in the moment and really just tapping into your senses. And when you can tap into your senses, you can really go, wait a minute, what is really influencing what? My thoughts are affecting my mood because emotions are coming up and I want to reach for this food. And if I reach for this food, I already know how it's going to make me feel. It'll taste good in the moment, but as soon as I'm done, you're going to be like, ba-donk, ba-donk, ba-donk. How many of you do that? I have to admit, I did that with myself on the cupcakes. And then I really had to sit with, wow, you got to get back to your clean eating. And you've known this, and it's not like you have to beat yourself up. And I'm sitting there at the same time being very forgiving, very loving toward myself, and knowing that, you know what? I'm here to share this with all of you all so that maybe someone out there, it resonates with you and you yourself can get on your own healing path. That you can take time to meditate, that you can make time for you to sit with yourself and to love yourself and not feel like you have to stuff anything about yourself down. Because emotions are energy in motion and we need to keep in motion. So I'm outside right now. Get outside. Because when you ground yourself in the earth, when you feel the ions, the negative ions from the outdoors, it's much healthier than being inside. Get the vitamin D, right? Get some vitamin C, get by the water. The healing is going to come from your awareness and your stepping into your personal power and not letting food rule you. And I can talk about sugar even to, I know there's a beautiful term, I can't even think of the Latin term all of a sudden. But the reality is sugar is one of our biggest addictions, but so is food. And so I wanted to also touch upon when you overcook your food, you have cooked out the nutrients. So it causes you to be hungrier because you want more food, or you think you want more food, but your body's just saying, I didn't get any nutrients from that. Could you give me something else? Give me more, give me more, give me more until I can actually get the amount of nutrients I crave and desire that the actual physical body needs. So imagine this. You're caramelizing onions. You're cooking a sweet potato. You know that sweetness that comes out of it? It's a form of processed sugar. What is sugar? Those of you out there who I already read it in the comments. Sugar is cancer causing because it feeds cancer, the cancer cells that we all have in our body. But when we're imbalanced, it creates this environment, right? It creates an acidic body. It creates this ideal location for things to fester and inflame. You don't have to know you have cancer. You have to know if you feel good or not. And you have to trust your feelings. It's not about you feeling good, but feeling good with feeling, right? And you know why that's important? Because you're here to truly embody and feel everything about this life, to live a rich, fulfilled life. We're not here to stuff ourselves with a bunch of food and just be like, oh, look, I lived a life. I ate all this amazing food. But you weren't really truly living because you were kind of on the death path anyway. You know, Tom posted earlier about don't be fearful of the death, but be afraid that you never lived. You want to live fully. Don't beat yourself up about it, but I want you to be aware and concerning of and discerning what you are doing. It doesn't matter what you're eating. And I'm not criticizing, I'm not here to be the judge. I'm sharing my personal experience. That here's some other wonderful things to learn about cooked foods. And I forgot about it until, again, sitting with all of this stuff about what this experience put me through. Plus, the past week, I was looking at my physical body and I was seeing stretch marks. I was seeing flabby skin. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on with my body? My body doesn't do this. And I'm actually working at it. I'm taking Buddy for walks. I, rode the bike with Dad. Ride the bike, right? Guess what? If your food isn't alive, your body will not strive. It will actually disintegrate, so degenerate as well. So imagine the more alive your foods are, the more rich of vital prana, life force that they are, the more vibrant your cells will feel when you put them in your body. And so from my personal experience, a couple things. My girlfriend reminded me about chocolate, giving her raccoon eyes. And let me tell you, I started paying attention. The more chocolate I was eating, the more I was noticing dark circles under my eyes. Giving myself just a couple days rest of not eating and then doing some juicing, because I had some celery juice with some ginger, and then I had a carrot, apple, ginger, lemon juice as well. Let me tell you, I woke up this morning looking in the mirror going, well, I look a whole lot more vibrant than I have been looking, and I feel a whole lot better than I ever did. But anyone out there who's ever been sick, and you know who you are, hadn't you ever noticed? You lose all this weight and you look in the mirror because you couldn't eat anything, because you didn't crave anything, and I certainly didn't crave anything either. You look in the mirror and you go, wow, I look pretty darn good. That was like going on a diet. Even though I didn't want to, go without food, I just couldn't eat, right? Because that's how I was. Couldn't eat. It just made me sick thinking about food because my stomach was so inflamed and it was so painful. It's like you get this mini diet, and all of a sudden your body's like, oh, look at you. And then what's the choice next? You go back to eating the same way, where it creates all those dimples, stretch marks, wrinkles, right? Dryness of the skin. I mean, this was exactly what I was reminding myself. I'm like, oh, okay. So I look horrible. I've got sullen eyes. I was noticing a lot of, blemishes on my skin. I'm like going, gosh, what's going on? The worst was my butt. Okay, y'all? I'm going to be honest. I don't want a flabby ass. And that was enough motivation to remind me, we need to get back to step one. And that's paying attention to how I'm eating and why I'm eating it. And does it feel good in my body when I'm eating it? Now, I'm not saying I'm going to give up all the cooked foods. I mean, sweet potatoes, and especially when I eat in the winter times. What I do, yeah, Jessica, I'm with you. When I eat in the winter, I do sometimes bake some. I do happen to love sweet potatoes and avocados. They're a great combination. What you can do is you blend it up. You take a sweet potato, make a sweet potato soup, and the blender itself will whip it up. But you don't need to cook it on the stove because you're already cooking it and you don't kill out all the enzymes. If it goes over 115, 118 degrees Fahrenheit, then you started to deplete and lose out the minerals and the nutrients and all the vital resources of that food. And then you crave more food as a result, right? Hey, honey. So it's amazing how food will trigger us, and it'll bring up emotions. And then emotions are like, wow, again, opportunities for you to sit with it and go, do I really, really need this or not? And so going back to the cooked food again, the more you eat cooked foods, the more you crave food, the more hunger your stomach will have, because it will feel like it didn't get what it wanted, what it needed. And I'll tell you what, anybody who's ever known me in my past life will say, girlfriend can put down some food. And I am not afraid to admit it. I would really eat people under the table. And that was when I was eating cooked food. And the more I got into this living whole foods lifestyle, the less amount of food I was needing, the less I was eating, which brings up fasting. I like that Tom says intimate fasting, right? Well, intermittent, it is an intimacy, because it's about being into me, I see, being attuned to your own body, that you recognize, okay, it needs a break so it can heal, so it can clean out what was processed the day before. And so intermittent fasting, and you can choose, you stop eating, let's say 8, 9 o'clock at night, because at 10 o'clock is when your body starts to shut down and go into its healing mode. It starts to cleanse. The different organs go through, the processing. Up until 10 o'clock in the morning, your liver is still cleaning out. Now, the liver is responsible for getting rid of a lot of those sugars. And anybody who's ever been an alcoholic has had the most damage to their liver, but it's healable just like anything. Giving your body a rest. Let's say 12 plus hours. It sounds like a lot to some people, but you're sleeping during at least, most people should be getting at least 8 hours in there, but we don't always do that. And our sleep is most important, because that will dictate also our moods and our food influences. So while we are sleeping and you've got this 12-hour window, let's say you stop eating at 8 o'clock and you wait until, my example would be, normally I wouldn't get to bed or sleep before midnight, but I would stop eating by 9 o'clock at night. That was my goal. Now, since in the past year, I've kind of, gone down to 10 o'clock. I'm like, as long as I eat before 10 o'clock, I'm good. And so then I would wait and not eat until after like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, sometimes 2 or 3. And my body was adjusted to that. I was able to do that. And you know why? Because for me, I was recognizing when I was hungry and when I was not. And I was probably in the best shape of my life as a result, because I no longer had the flabby ass, the wrinkles. In fact, how many people tell me, they look in my eyes and go, wow, your eyes are amazing. And they're just staring at me. What do you do? What do you eat? Asking me. I don't have to say anything. If you want to know, you can ask, but I'm not here to force my lifestyle on anybody. You have to try it out for yourself. And I love cooked food, don't get me wrong, but I love the way I feel the cleaner I eat. Because then I'm more efficient, I get more done. I don't feel as weighed down, overwhelmed with, whatever stuff's going on through my head, because what is that food doing? So there's that energy around food too. Food, I bless my food when I'm making it, when I'm preparing it. Whenever you eat outside, like outside of your home, you don't know what someone's going through when they're preparing your food. You don't know if they're worried about being evicted from their homes, or making their next payment, or having to feed their children. You don't know. And so it's extremely important to know the source of your food, and to also bless it and be grateful for it at the same time, because that's what you're putting in yourself. The thoughts, what you're going through at the time that you're putting food in your mouth too, very important. Never eat when you're upset. And that means when you're on one side of the pendulum or the other, whether you're upset, angry, or extremely happy. And I get like that too. You have to calm your nervous system down, because that's the thing too, is sugar will totally mess up your nervous system. It weakens your immune system, and it messes up your nervous system. And you can't bounce back quickly enough the more you compromise that. You bust out your adrenals and your kidneys that way. And so we want to be fully vital source here, energy, right? And the only way we can do that is to be totally tuned in, tapped on, and turned on to life. And that includes the life force we put in ourselves. So I really wanted to share this with all of y'all because I really find it to be a very important topic. Yeah, when you eat when you're not hungry, and if you can stay, it's 6 o'clock. You know, my mom used to tell me 7 o'clock at night. But the further south you live, it seems, and this was in Italy and this is here in the US, the later at night we seem to want to eat. Maybe I'm wrong. But finding a routine that works for you. You may have a lifestyle that doesn't afford you to be able to intermittent fast. Maybe you work nights. But you're worth it, and you need to be more loving and kind on your mind and yourself, and just pay attention. Keep a food journal. That's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice I could give anyone is keep a food journal, a food and thought journal. Write down what your thoughts are, whatever's popping up, what triggers and memories, and then sit down with it and also remind yourself, what is it, the food that's coming up? What is it I want to reach for? What's available or not available? Man, I really want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That was my comfort food, y'all. And FYI, the other day, Dad and I ran out to Sam's. And you know what they had, Tommy, you'll appreciate this. They had gumdrop grapes. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to get these because that's how I made the smoothie that's in our meal plan, by the way, just in case you're wondering. We have an amazing 12-week meal plan that we put together, and that is one of my favorite recipes, is that almond butter, it's PB&J smoothie. It's almond butter based, but man, does it taste just like a PB&J, baby. It's one of my favorite things to reach for. And keeping that journal is going to help you to improve. If you're open and looking to make true changes in your life. Nobody should be telling you what you need to do. You need to make the choice for you. And if sugar is a problem, it's okay. Again, it's not about feeling good. It's about being good with your feelings and recognizing that, you know what, sometimes we have weaknesses and we give into them. And then when we recognize them, we can improve upon them and do better. Kathy, just to let you know, pop on in, ninja flip on into our Ridiculously Authentic group where we have an amazing family. The 12-week meal plan is something that Tommy and I put together as a labor of love, whole foods plant-based. It is on sale right now. Just check out our website. I'll put the link in the comments for you, okay, hon? I wish you all truly the best, and to find the source of whatever it is that's ailing you. Food's just one avenue we all take to try to get out of our problems. And no matter what it is, we can heal. We just need to feel it to heal it. And when feeling it and healing it, we can improve upon it. Life is one beautiful blessing. I'm grateful to all of you. I feel blessed just to be here. If you have any questions for me, please, in the comments, let me know. I will reach out in those comments and just get back to you. Many blessings. I love you.